Governor, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. I want to just jump right into it. We heard from CPA at their board meeting on Monday that there's some promising developments in Japan. And I know that on your way to the Western Governors meeting, which we'll talk about later, you actually went to Japan and met with airlines. So can you brief us on that?
Yeah, we've been reaching out. I mean, I tell you, over the past year, that's all we've been doing. Really is, being very patient and reaching out to different airlines out of Japan and even Korea and even Taiwan. But this time, we found out that there are some organizations. Daikin Ren, which is an organization of big corporations in Japan that some of the legacy airlines are member of, and so they were able to schedule some meetings with me and our team. So on my way to the Western Governors, it was just we took advantage of the stopover in Narita and had a day and a half worth of meetings with different companies and corporations, including the airlines. So we met with ANA, All Nippon Air, and JAL, and some other tourist industry partners that are in Japan. And so it's promising, but I don't want to get into the real details right now because they're still looking at how to make it happen. We're also looking at different companies in different industries to peg their interests on investing in the Commonwealth, bringing them back, bringing some Japanese businesses other than tourist-related industries to come and invest. And they're seriously looking at it. And one of the primer to that was their participation in the Select USA. For a change, we had a really focused messaging, and we even had a booth at the Select USA conference this year, and we had folks from CETA, folks from the Department of Commerce, and even Senator Corina was able to join the group. Last minute, she was able to fly out there, and they spent like almost 3 or 4 days talking to some of these international investors or foreign investments. And so it piqued some of their interest, and we're talking to them, and they're looking at, the tax structure, the advantages of investing in the Commonwealth for the U.S. market or for anywhere else. But things are, at least the discussions are very fruitful. But I don't want to pinpoint to specific companies or any. I don't want to overcommit until they have a serious letter of intent. I know that several companies have already come on island to do due diligence, and we have one company that's very, very interested in this. Their executives have come on island several times, looking at different aspects of the opportunities and the challenges they might have to face, and it's looking very positive. We have renewables, companies in renewables. They're very interested in production over here or assembly. We even have pharmaceuticals company that have piqued interest and came on island already and looked at very quietly. And CETA is playing a major role in that regard. So we usually investments in the past couple of decades is just such hotspots that people go here, people go there, and they get different answers from. So I've assigned CETA to be the point of contact for all investments to go there for us, and then they'll assemble the appropriate agencies that can provide the answers.
So it's fair to say that you're trying to revive the Japanese tourism market.
Japanese and make sure that the Korean market continues to improve.
All right. And after Japan, you went to which state was it for the
It was
Western governors?
in New Mexico.
New Mexico,
Yeah.
that's right. So what's the agenda there? I know you said it was your first meeting, right?
It was my first meeting, so we had Interior, Secretary of Interior was, because the Western states are really, that's where a lot of the federal lands are. And so that was a big subject. And we also had the Secretary of Education. We had EPA and Energy. But yeah, the first day was very, very intense. Secretary Burgum was there, and he was right out front. He said, the Western states have a lot of the natural resources, whether it's fossil, natural gas, wind, and all that, and so just consistent with the Trump administration's policies to strengthen the energy part of the U.S. because we have a lot of resources, and so that's one of the issues. Obviously, there's a lot of restrictive policy, right, in developing some of those, the pipelines, natural gas drilling and stuff like that. So a lot of that conversation. So we have at least six of us were there. 6 governors from the Western states were there. A lot of these folks have a lot of energy resources. And then, of course, the other issue that was really all in the center is the commonalities of emergencies. In the Western states, obviously the thing that they're very keen on is how to continue to handle wildfires, because that's becoming very, very often and bigger and bigger. The California fires, the Oregon fires, the Washington fires, the Idaho, everybody has the same issue. So how do we in the Western states take a look at it and begin to pull together our resources as well as common policies? And one of the speakers was saying, it's really ironic that while we may have a lake right there that we could have, gotten water, we couldn't because there was some fish that's in that lake, and we can't access that, and we have to let thousands of acres burn because of that. And then the practice of not clearing underbrush and becomes very high, intense fire hazards, right? And those are the things that they have to deal with because of the policies over the years and so they're trying to take a look at how to mitigate some of that. And of course, with us, I shared my thoughts on well, we have a different disaster, and climate change. I don't know what you call it, but we're having more intense super typhoons more frequently in our area, in Guam and the CNMI. So, those are the things that we have to deal with. How do we deal with emergencies, and what is FEMA's role? I think, to be quite frank with you, my take on this is that you can adjust the policies under the emergency management system, whether you call it FEMA or even another name, the fact is that the states and territories still needs that 2 weeks advance before the cavalry really comes in. And how do we prepare for that? What kind of resources do we have to set aside? I know that FEMA has already some assets that are set up and stored in Guam for the region, right? Water, equipment, so that they can mobilize very easily and in a timely manner. So those are the kind of things that, it's working for us. Can we improve it? Absolutely. And I think the region actually continues to have these either tabletop exercise or conferences to talk about how to make things better for everybody. That's one of the issues. The other issue that piqued my interest was the education. The Secretary of Education was there. Of course, the standing order of the president is to close the department down. Well, okay, so how do we do that? How do we do that so that the states and the territories, we don't fall in a crack? Is the policy to continue to provide the resources, and how do we provide the states and territories those resources without a central office that's going to do it, which is the U.S. Department of Education. And I think my takeaway in those conversations is that it is very, very it was very critical that we articulate our positions on these issues and say, well, maybe you need to save it here, and so I think the states are putting together their own thoughts on how to roll out that standing order from the president.
All right. And speaking of the interior, is there any update since last we spoke about 902? I know that there's still some online calls and you're aiming for the fall, but anything?
We were supposed to have a virtual with Mr. Cameron, and our schedules just didn't meet up. And I know that, but I was advised that Mr. Haig would most likely, he's in the marshals for Micronesia Island Forum, and so he might just fly in here and we'll discuss. The only thing that they already know what our issues are, and we already articulated that in our papers, position papers to them. That has not changed, obviously, and so it's just a matter of setting the dates and the venues for those discussions. And there was some off the record advice that I was given from the federal side on certain things that at this point I'm not free to explain to you and to make it public, but it's nothing controversial. It's just suggestions on how we can proceed. So I really do look forward to, in fact, after this interview, or tomorrow, I'm going to be meeting with some of the team members to go over once more the position papers and the last official conversations and exchange of documents.
All right, Gov. Just my last question is about CUC's decision to petition CPUC to essentially raise the rates over 5 years. I know you went there to give a personal plea. What do you think of the decision?
Well, Tomas, my personality is I went there, they know what my position is. I also respect their independence and their autonomy, but that hasn't changed me and my position. And I will continue to advocate that they take a very careful look at it because there are people that are not making it. I mean, it's very, very expensive, and they say they continue to come out with the point that we have the lowest rate. I don't think so. It's 41 cents a kilowatt hour, or 39 cents. That's not low. Yeah, we may have the electric rate is low, but when you calculate in the fact that it's still very high. You can't say, well, the electric rate is low. Yeah, but your fact is very high. Whereas everybody else has this one rate, and the fact is already incorporated into it. So I did see that a little bit of it of the interview with Mr. Paris, and with all due respect, and I really respect all those members. They're very qualified. They're very credentialed in their own field, but I trust that once more I'm going to sit down with them and I said, take a look at reset yourself and take a look at it one more time and see if you can reconsider that, how to make it work. One of the things that they admitted, and we all admit as the attribute and the reason why we have such a costly rate of production is the fact that our engines are very inefficient already. So what do? You make the engines more efficient. And I haven't seen anything though from CUC that has a complete plan to either replace those old engine from our big power plant here, our power plant in Tinian, and our power plant in Rhoda. What is the plan? What is the infrastructure plan for that? Are we going to commission another $2 million consultancy to tell us that all the engines are old and antiquated and are very inefficient? No, it shouldn't. You and me know that. We're not engineers, but hey, so what's the plan? Where are we going to get a new engine or new engines? And one of the most effective and efficient way to get this done, and I advocated for that, is like consider going to a PPA where a private company, which is profit driven, will take over the power plant, which is a government asset, and have a negotiation on how that's going to work, and say, okay, run the power plant. We'll buy the electricity for you. We'll buy it at this much. But because they're profit driven, they're going to make sure that the cost of energy, of producing those energy, is low, right? Whereas now, whatever comes out as our cost of producing that energy, we just turn around and pass it on to consumers, and our consumers and our residents just cannot afford another increase, period. I mean, they should know that. And here we are trying to entice different industries and diversify our economies, right? But the highest cost of doing business in the Commonwealth is energy. The cost of running a hotel is very high because of energy. It's not the labor cost. It's not the other costs that are associated. Number one is energy production. And that's why some of the hotels are running their own power plants, right? Good for them. But at the end of the day, when an investor comes on island, that's one of the first items that they look at in the matrix of the analytics, whether to invest here or to invest in Guam or elsewhere. So we need to improve that. DOD is going to be in Tinian already, right? What is the capacity of our power plant? there because they're going to need energy. They're going to need power and water. They're going to drill their own wells in, and it'll be a travesty if at the end of the day they turn around and produce their own power. That opportunity for CUC to spread out the costs so that consumers, the price to the consumers is lower because of the economy of scale. That opportunity goes away because we didn't take advantage of it. So what do we need to do, for example, with a power plant on Tinian? I heard it keeps getting downgraded in its capacity. That shouldn't be the case. You know, if it's run by a private company. Same thing with Rhoda. I've had a conversation with 2 companies that are very interested in a small system in Rhoda. They say they can do it in 6 months. 6 months they can have multifaceted energy production, whether it's through some solar or hydrogen and fossil on the base load. So that's something that, I mean, I know that they've had numerous studies, whether it's cost of production or rate, what is it, rate study, and what they knew. Dude, we've had so many studies already. Now, when are we gonna do? I mean, we know that we need at least 60 to 70 megawatts for businesses to thrive here, and the energy cost of energy is reasonable, and we need about maybe 20, maybe 30 for Tinian, maybe more, because now we're going to have data centers. The data center is costly. It needs a lot of energy, and the Rhoda also has to be taken care of. So I think the fastest way is to have a private company run that. And that's what Guam has done. Guam has done that completely, and they're doing well. At one time, GPA was running their power plants, and they weren't doing well. And you know, I know that Simon Sanchez had given them a plan to take a look at, but you know, I don't know where that has gone. But I hope that they come up with a request for proposal to take a look at the possibility of privatizing or having a power purchase agreement with a legitimate company. So I will be having those conversations. It's kind of strange that you brought that up because I was just thinking about it on my way back from the island. I mean, from my meetings.